Hi, this is Bill Punch with another video in a sequence of videos from Michigan State University, Introduction of Computing Using Python CSE 231. Today's video is going to talk about a different method of repetition called iteration, and iteration is a process that operates on collections. So we'll do iteration in the context of strings, our first collection. We have seen the while loop as a way to repeat a Python statement, a suite of Python statements. Now that we have our first collection, we want to look at another looping statement called the for statement. And the for statement is special in that it iterates over all the elements of a collection, any collection, including strings, our first one, but the nice thing is that it will work on any collection, and it goes through each element one at a time and sets a variable of the user's choosing to each element. If the collection is a sequence, which it will be for our string, the process goes in order from beginning to end. So the loop will look at the first element, the first character, the second, the third, all the way forth through the end in order. The general form for a for statement would look like this. We would provide the for statement itself, and then in as a keyword, and then these are two things that we get to set ourselves. Let me reset this a little higher. So item is any variable name that we want to make. We get to call it whatever we want, and sequence is the collection of elements that we're trying to iterate through, and then associated with that is, just like any one of these compound statements, a suite. It's easier to sort of show you how it works than to talk about it, so let's remind ourselves of our good old-fashioned hello world example, and so we can understand just exactly what's going to happen. Here's our first for loop. Here's the suite associated with this for. We made up a variable name called character, and my string, as always, is set to hello world for our examples, and then here's the in keyword part of the for statement. What's going to happen? What we're going to do is we're going to go through each element starting at the very first element. So we're going to start at element 0, the letter H, and H is going to be set to the value of the variable character. And then we're going to execute the suite with character set to H. When the suite ends, we're going to go back and say we're going to set character now to the second element, index 1 E, and repeat the suite. When the suite ends, we'll go back and set element index 2, element 3 to character, and repeat the suite. So on and so forth till we go all the way through all of the elements of the sequence, the last one being D. At that point, having gone through all 11 elements, we would pick up where we left off with the next following statement. So what the for statement does is gives us an opportunity to operate on each element in the collection by applying the suite to each element as we go through. So in this particular example, we're going to grab each character of the string. We're going to print, we're maintaining another variable called index, an integer that's set to 0. And we're going to print the index, which starts at 0, and the character, or whatever character was set to in the string as we go through. So every time we run the for loop, we'll print and we'll update index by 1. And if we run that, it will look like this. So and I'll just try to keep this up here so we can see it. So at index 0 is H, index 1 is E, so on and so forth, all the way through to D. And at that point, the for loop ended, and we picked up where we left off. The power of the for loop is that this will work for any collection. So we'll find a number of collections, the string being our first one, but the for loop will always apply, allow us to examine every element in the collection so that we can do something to it. And that turns out to be incredibly convenient. A second way to generate a sequence, or our second sequence, is a range of integers. And the way we can generate the second sequence is using the range function. And the range function will generate a sequence of integers that we get to specify, and then we can use the range function in the context of the for loop just like we have before. The range function takes potentially 3 arguments, though some of those can be defaulted if we choose to. So the first argument is the start integer. If we don't say what the start is, it's assumed to be 0 and omitted. The end integer, this is required because if we don't say where we start, we can start at 0, but we have to say where we end, so we have to do that. We'd also do a step integer. If this is omitted, it's assumed to be 1. Otherwise, we can go by 2s or 5s or 10s, whatever we choose to do. So here's an example. Oh, I'm sorry, one other thing. Like the stuff that we saw with slicing, this range is a half open range. And the half open range means if you have a range of 1 to 5, you're going to generate 1, 2, 3, and 4, but not 5. So the last value in the range is not generated. Let's take a look. So here's a 4. We're going through a particular integer in the range, and we're just going to print it out. And because we have the end cap set to a blank space, it's all going to print on one line. So we're going to go through all the integers in the range, starting at 1 up to but not including 5. Great. If we do it again, if we say only 5, the assumption is it starts at 0. And the count is by 1, so we should get 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, but not 5, which is what we get. Here's another one. We can go from 2 up to, but not including 11 by 2, so that should be the even numbers starting at 2 up through and including 10.